Britain's biggest wine producer is considering raising cash and even putting itself up for sale to fund more vineyards and build a new winery. It's a booming industry transformed by rising temperatures.
Chapel Down, the country's best-known producer, says it's on track for double-digit sales growth this year. The UK wine industry is still small and mostly concentrated in southern England, but higher temperatures create better growing conditions for grapes, with a boom in new vineyards last year.
All this comes as more traditional wine-growing regions, such as Italy, Spain, France and California, are set to struggle in extreme heat. Well, let's talk to Stephen Skelton, who has an amazing title, by the way, a Master of Wine and a viticultural consultant. Stephen, welcome. Good to see you. Many years ago, English and Welsh wine was a bit of a joke, the kind of stuff you served to people you didn't like. They're not laughing now, are they?
Not really, no. English wine has come a very long way since I started almost 50 years ago. Actually, over 50 years ago, but I spent the first 2 years training in Germany.
What's changed?
The climate. That's the top and bottom of it, really. And, of course, it being warmer and warmer at night, which helps with photosynthesis, which is, the bedrock of producing sugars in plants, means that we're now getting, with some varieties, double the natural alcohol, so double the sugar level than we used to 50 years ago. And that's the same for all crops. You know, fruits, apples are much sweeter, plums are much sweeter. And what's that in the wine world? Of course, you know, variety is very important. I mean, you ask an average wine drinker to name 2 or 3 grape varieties that they know, and they'll give you, you know, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and Cabernet Sauvignon. You ask them to name you the varieties that go into their bread or into their beer or into their, other foods. They will almost have no idea. So varieties are very important, and what the climate change has made us been able to do is to change the varieties that we grow. And you know, when I started, as I say, I trained in Germany because we grew German varieties. A variety called Müller-Thurgau, which was Liebfraumilch, the basis for Liebfraumilch, and some other varieties that nobody now has ever heard of. But in the 90s, you know, we started to toy around with planting varieties like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and at first they were not really very successful, but things changed sort of towards the end of the 90s, and then since 2003 the trajectory of plantings has been upwards. In 2003 I think we were 200 hectares when I started in 1973. We went down to about 700 hectares in 2002, but as I say, we started rising from 03 from that base, and we're now near 5,000 hectares. We've been doubling every 4, 5, 6 years.
And this was small-time amateurish stuff 30 years ago, wasn't it, in the UK?
Well,
I mean, it's now a big business, isn't it?
It wasn't actually. There were a lot of, when I first launched my first wine I made and sold in 1980, I was charging £4.75 for it, which is equivalent today of £30 a bottle. So it wasn't all amateur. You know, my whole life, really, my whole adult life has really been involved with learning about growing and making wine. I'm 76 and I'm still doing it.
Will we eventually see the demise, perhaps, of wines from southern Europe, California and other hot climates that are struggling?
Well, there's a lot you can do in the fields, a lot that viticulturists can do. With what we call canopy management, so leaf cover. There are newer varieties of vine which may well take over from the more established varieties, which might be a little bit of a problem when it comes to naming them. Although, of course, not all wines are known by their variety name. You know, many red wines, you think of Chianti and Rioja and Bordeaux, Claret. Not everybody knows what varieties they're made from, and even Burgundy, you know, Chablis, not everyone knows that's made from Chardonnay. So, you know, there are ways around this, and I think that the best sites will still produce good wines. But you can, the altitude is very important in terms of heat. You know, you can go up the valley hills, and the top sites will become more valuable than the hitherto lower sites. You know, in California now, Napa, the base valley in Napa is really not so important and not so commercially successful as the fringes on the tops of the hills, which were frowned upon at one point.
Stephen, we wish you many happy tastings. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Stephen Skelton, Master of Wine.